Hi, I'm Kevin Dahl. I'm the Arizona Program Manager for National Parks Conservation Association. We gave Congressman Raul Grijalva this Friends of the National Parks Award because in the last Congress he was one of the few congressmen who voted 100% on our scorecard of important votes on national parks.
It's an acknowledgement that you're working. It's an incentive that you're working and that you keep in contact, and that there's some consistency to the work that is being done. I think the two hardest things in American politics right now is survival and consistency. And consistency is underappreciated. I think political leadership that has consistency through it all, at the end of the day, win the day. And so we're going through rough times. Not only our great public places and our parks are constantly under assault. The issue of climate change ignored by the House of Representatives and tolerated by the Senate. An issue that is devastating to what the quality of life for all living things is going to be on this planet, and we continue to put it off and put it off and put it off. And the decision, quite frankly, a tremendous legacy decision that our friend and someone whom I support, President Obama has before him, is the future of that pipeline. It's up to him. The advice that needs to be given has been given, and now it becomes a historic moment on do we begin to deal with this issue and begin to wean ourselves into a different life, or do we continue the same pattern that we've had forever? I see the same issue in terms of mining in our public lands. That it's not a question of denying a job, but when we say a full range of uses for our public land, it doesn't mean that there's only one use, and that's extraction. And that's all. One of the things I said in June that I think bears repeating, that there's a tendency to look at conservation, to look at the public lands and our public parks as a playground for a few. Only they are going to enjoy it, while the rest of the turmoil and life goes on in the rest of society. That is such a disjointed view of what that means to our society and to this planet, and quite frankly to this nation. And so an environmental ethic is not inconsistent with any other progressive way of trying to make our lives better in this world of ours. I tie it to what we need to do in terms of public health. I tie it to what we need to do in terms of saving species, and in that part, saving ourselves. I tie it to what we need to do and prove that adaptation to climate change is possible. And we begin with the public lands and the corridors that are critical to that, and begin to set an example for the future. I tie it to inclusion. Very interesting poll that got done that kind of begins to dismiss the theory that the public lands and conservation are the playground of a few. The poll asked a variety of groups in this country, because we all get grouped in one day or another, how they felt about conservation, how they felt about climate change, how they felt about the pipeline, and how they felt about the public lands and conservation. Ranking highest among all groups in terms of support for those issues in the 80s and in the 70s, Latinos, Native Americans, urban folk. And so what I said to that group, that let us not underestimate ourselves. That the issue about an environmentally sane way to approach policy in this country is interconnected to everything else we're trying to do in this country. And so being an environmentalist is not a contradiction with being for social justice. It's not a contradiction. It's not a contradiction with wanting to put people to work and educate people. It's not a contradiction to saying that this nation of ours has opportunities ahead of it, and that the environmental ethic and planning for the future are going to be a centerpiece on how we get all these parts together. And so I'm happy about it. I'm happy that that is a central part in people's minds, and I think we have to begin to translate that into a more unified approach to public policy and a more unified approach to political reality. And somebody's making fun of Grijalva. You're always optimistic about the next election, no matter how bad the last one went. Oh, the next election is going to be it, and you have to be, otherwise you could go crazy. And I think there's pivotal times are going to come. We're going to close the gap this next time around, and then we're going to seal the deal after that. And I want to be along for the ride, because it's good to. We've done a good job of being having the rear action fight on a lot of bad legislation. Because I think if you're going to oppose it, you have to be effective in their opposition. You can't just take symbolic votes. You got to tear at it. You got to humiliate it. You got to just mess with them constantly, and ridicule, and point out how stupid and how inane these things are going to be for the American people. And guess what? People like that. They like to hear that you're fighting for the things you believe in. And so we've had great rear action. We're good guerrilla fighters. But I look forward to the day that we are in charge to be able to begin to translate what we're fighting against, and translate that into public, positive policy that cements what this future is going to look like. And so I still believe we have that opportunity. Let me end by saying that in this whole thing has been great, Alan's. I said it once before here. Many of the lessons that I learned in this town of ours, in this region of ours, have translated perfectly into the job that I have in DC. About inclusion, that we know here that our native nations that are around us are our greatest partners when we need to get things done. Our greatest defenders of conservation, water quality, and assuring Antiquities Act is protected forever. They're our partners. I've translated that's also now more and more a national perspective about that cooperation. And the linkages and the bridges that we hope to continue to build with urban America, with emerging communities of color in this nation of ours that are going to be the constituents that are going to keep our beautiful public places open, alive, and protected. And the last thing is, the organizations have been phenomenal, because we're all under the gun, we're all under pressure, and the resources and the leadership and the attention and the fight that you guys have put up on a variety of issues, both locally and nationally, kind of set the tone for what those of us that are in public life need to do as well. I want to thank all of you. Let me, Mona and I, somebody said even a blind squirrel can find a nut, and I happened to have found a great person early on in my life, Mona, that was stuck with me for 40 plus years. Mona and I have had this debate about, she's from New Mexico, the land of enchantment. I don't know how many times she said that. And we're more beautiful than you guys, We're in Arizona, the Great Desert. It doesn't sound quite as well as the
We're the Grand Canyon State.
Grand Canyon State, thank you. I'm kind of used to that one. But, the partnership about what we're going to do generationally for the next group of kids has become strong. We got 3 grandbabies now. That was a little baby right there, right now. And I think we owe them something that the fight you're making now is going to translate into them having the same opportunities that we've had to touch, to feel the texture and the beauty of what this country is. And I'm committed to it. You are too. And I think our time is coming. Thank you very much.